Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Love Your Liver live stream, number 97. Boy, we're almost to 100 of these bad boys. Pretty exciting. I am Dr. Garrett Smith, known around these YouTube parts as the Nutrition Detective. My website's at nutritiondetective.com. You can find all the links to all my stuff down in the info. For those of you who are here live and you want to join the chat, just make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're here, make sure to X out of the chat and go like this video. Or if you're watching it later, make sure to leave a comment and like it so that other people, so that the algos will feed this to other people so they can find it and learn some good things about health. So a reminder, super chats are enabled if you want to get your question priority. Otherwise, I go through the super chats first and then I answer questions as they come. And I have two short topics today. As you may have seen in the title, we're going to go over how more vitamin A is linked to more prostate cancer. And we're going to go over indole 3-carbinol, also known as I3C, which turns into DIM in your body, diindolyl methane. And gosh, they're finding that it could be toxic in animal studies. Imagine that, a sulfur compound that I advocate generally against, sulfur compounds, especially plant-based, causing problems, maybe not helping. Maybe you've been told the wrong things by people who are not looking out for your best interests. So anyway, first paper entitled Serum Retinol and Risk of Prostate Cancer. Now, often thrown about that lycopene, which is a carotenoid, a plant vitamin A compound that does not turn into retinol, is somehow good for prostate cancer. Well, I've been through the papers on that. Let me see if I can find it on my old research forum. There was another paper that I looked at. Let me see. Sorry, I found one. Lycopenemia, a variant of carotenemia, is a yellow skin pigmentation caused by excessive tomato ingestion. So yes, you can accumulate the toxic carotenoids from lycopene in your skin. It's not a good thing for you. Let me see if I can find anything else in here. Oh, here's a fun one. It has also been shown that lycopene and beta-carotene protect cells against oxidatively induced DNA damage as measured by the COMET assay, only at relatively low concentrations, but increase the extent of damage at higher concentrations. Weird that more toxins equal more problems. And we talk about that in terms of the duration paradox. Why is that not printing? Hold on. Let me get this. So the title of that paper that I just mentioned about the lycopene, that has the reference link to that other study. And then the other one. Here's another paper, carotenoids and DNA damage. The provitamin A carotenoids show a more varied spectrum of effects, sometimes protecting and sometimes enhancing DNA damage. The tendency to exacerbate damage is seen mainly at high concentrations and might be accounted for by pro-oxidant actions of these carotenoids. Gosh, I guess they're not antioxidants now, are they? The antioxidant theory of health has been debunked like multiple times. If you are trying to force antioxidants down your throat, you're doing the wrong thing. Don't do it. Don't try to eat foods for antioxidants. Antioxidants are plant defense molecules, mostly polyphenols. Phenols are toxic. Phenol is a toxin. Poly means multiple. Multiple phenols are bad. So do not try to eat brightly colored foods for your health. Okay. The whole lycopene thing and prostate cancer. I remember Lauren Cordain of the paleo diet He used to have a free article on the web about this. Now it's a pay article, which I think stinks because so many people are not going to pay for it. But he said it's quite possible that the lycopene help in prostate cancer is actually like friendly fire damage, like collateral damage, because the lycopene is causing problems, but it just might damage the prostate cancer. That was his theory on it. So he wasn't saying it was a good thing either. But let's get into the vitamin A, the serum retinol. Serum retinol is really the only measurement we have for vitamin A in the blood. What could they measure? Let's remind ourselves. They hardly ever measure beta carotene in the blood, but they have serum beta carotene. You can order that. They almost never measure serum retinal or retinaldehyde, which is where a lot of your vitamin A kind of hangs out. They do have the availability of serum retinol. That's the most common one. That's really the only one that like LabCorp has. You could measure serum retinol esters, which are the vitamin A that's bound to a fatty acid ester, which is how it's stored in your liver. And it is well known that if you have too many retinol esters floating around in your blood, that's another measure of vitamin A toxicity. So we really only can measure one. Oh, and they don't measure serum retinoic acid, which is the most toxic of them all. So it's very strange that they only measure one of those 5 things that they could measure. It's almost like they don't want to find it. So when we find something that shows serum retinol is high and it's associated with diseases, we know free retinol running around the blood is very damaging. That's why your body makes retinol binding protein to bind to it to protect you. What do you need to make serum retinol binding protein? You need protein in your diet enough, and you need zinc. You need zinc to make retinol binding protein. Funny thing, zinc is known to be very good for prostate cancer. So let's look at when you have too much serum retinol floating around. So serum retinol and risk of prostate cancer. I always want to show you this because what they always do in these studies where they find what they're not expecting, where they find that vitamin A is bad, they always start the abstract and they always start the paper with vitamin A is really good for you. You really, really, really need it, but oops. Look what we found. Okay. So here's the first sentence. Greater exposure to retinol, vitamin A, may prevent prostate cancer. Although under some conditions, it could promote cell growth and dedifferentiation. So they started out saying it may prevent prostate cancer. Now let's go to the end. Okay. So that was the first sentence. Now let's go to the last sentence of the abstract. In this largest study to date of vitamin A status and subsequent risk of prostate cancer, higher serum retinol, more vitamin A in the blood, was associated with elevated risk, with sustained high exposure conferring the greatest risk. That was the second to last sentence. Further studies may clarify the underlying biologic mechanisms of the retinol prostate cancer association. You see how they know what they're worried about losing their grant money or losing their study money because they went and studied vitamin A and it didn't show any protective effect. It showed more damaging effect as people went higher. Okay. An example, personal example, when I was 25, my father died of prostate cancer. Well, he really died of the 5th round of chemo that the oncologist killed him with. Because they poisoned him to death. Because chemo is poison by definition. And you will eventually lose to the chemo. It will kill you eventually. The cancer will keep coming back. It may not come back in the same area. It may come back in a different area because they're poisoning you. And don't go the chemo route. Even doctors wouldn't do chemo generally. They know where it's going to go. They're going to poison you to say you get a couple more months. I just want you to think about this. Go look up how many billions of dollars the oncology and cancer treatment industries are. And then wonder just how much money it would take to fund a scientist to make sure that they found that chemotherapy increased the length of life. You know, they can fudge statistics. They can make up stuff. Nobody's going and checking on them. Nobody's repeating the studies. When you have a billion or trillion dollar industry like cancer that is getting, there's more cancer every year. On the TV I saw the other day, they said a 50% chance of any person of people, probably Westerners, Americans, getting cancer in their lifetime. 1 out of every 2 people you know will get cancer in their lifetime. The only way that this happened, it has nothing to do with genetics, folks. It's toxicity. And they just showed that more vitamin A in your blood equals more prostate cancer and more aggressive prostate cancer. And I'm sitting here saying vitamin A is a poison. Right? Now I want to go into this next study because I want this study to show you a concept of mine, which is that you can suppress one disease while, like, you could make one disease look better while another disease is growing. This is the thing you must remember about, well, chemo, right? You can suppress one disease and you can cause all sorts of other diseases. I mean, that's not what chemo does. Chemo is like suffering in a injection or pill, right? But you can also do it with natural things. So a lot of these people who talk about they got rid of their cancer through some natural herb or whatever. You can, I don't Butch is saying Stephen Gundry says polyphenols are good for us. I don't care what Stephen Gundry says. Lectins go through leaky gut. Leaky gut is caused by toxic bile. You fix the toxic bile, you fix the leaky gut. Lectins aren't an issue. So, but before then, if you find that certain high lectin foods cause you problems, just don't eat them. Okay? Lectins are the highest in beans and grains. So if you are having issues with a certain type of beans or grains, or any type of beans or grains, don't eat them. So let's get into that other study. Serum retinol and the risk of overall and site-specific cancer in the ATBC study. Here we start. Let's start with the first 2 sentences. Retinol, the most biologically active form of vitamin A. It's not... I love how retinol doesn't do, other than be toxic, retinol doesn't do anything in your body. I don't know if you guys know this, but the retinoic acid is what they call the active form of vitamin A. There's no retinol receptor. I don't understand how people keep repeating this stuff, that retinol is what does something. Retinol doesn't do anything other than poison you. And then it turns into retinoic acid, which then binds to supposedly retinoic acid receptors and retinoid X receptors. And I went over last week how there are like thousands of things that can bind to those receptors. So that means vitamin A, the whole molecular basis of vitamin A being necessary for anything in the human body, is complete garbage. And I've shown that in another video about vitamin A deficiency doesn't exist. So we have retinol, the most biologically active form of vitamin A, garbage, might influence cancer-related biological pathways. However, results from observational studies of serum retinol and cancer risk have been mixed. So they're setting you up. They're like, we're going to find something that we don't, or our masters don't like. We're going to tell you before. We're going to say, we found something that doesn't make sense. Okay, so remember how I said certain diseases can go up and certain diseases can go down when you put in a poison. Okay? Like veganism could starve somebody into their own bodies consuming a tumor, but they could die of malnutrition-related diseases, because we've all seen the general trend of long-term vegans. It looks like starvation, right? So anyway, after multivariable adjustment, wait. No, that's not the sentence I wanted. Higher retinol concentrations were, however, associated with increased risk of prostate cancer. And then they go, and lower risk of both liver and lung cancers. So prostate cancer has been repeated. But then they go liver. So is somebody going to go, well, I'm going to take vitamin A because I don't want to get liver cancer or lung cancer. And then they cause cancer somewhere else. But even still, they're going to look for vitamin A to be good. That's what they want. That's how they get more study money. I forgot to finish the personal story. I was 25. I was in naturopathic medical school. My dad died of prostate cancer. Well, he had prostate cancer at the time. He hadn't died yet, but I was getting trouble peeing at night, especially. And they did, when we had to get a prostate exam we had to get and give prostate exams as part of medical school. And mine was a little swollen, like a little bit of the BPH, benign prostatic hypertrophy. Well, I had those issues for a good long while. In the naturopathic medical school, I was kind of disappointed in them because I'm a 25-year-old saying, I got some trouble peeing at night. And they basically kind of ignored that. I was disappointed, honestly, because I was just too young. They were like, you're too young for prostate problems. They didn't say that, but in their ignorance of my symptoms, right? Let me help you. If you're a healthcare practitioner and somebody comes to you and they say, this is what's bothering me, your primary goal is to help fix what's bothering them, not to fix their lab numbers. You want to fix what's bothering them. That's what they came to you for. That's what they're paying you for. If somebody says I have anxiety and you're the practitioner, you're like, well, you have candida, and you're like, and they're like, okay, so we got rid of the candida, and they're like, but I still have anxiety. You didn't really help their quality of life. If whatever they thought was candida wasn't bothering them, and it wasn't what was causing their anxiety, you didn't help them. So if I go in there and I'm saying, I'm having to pee 5 times before I can go to sleep at night. I can't pee. If I feel any pee in my bladder at all, I can't sleep. They just brushed it off. Like I couldn't empty my bladder fully. I don't have that problem anymore. Gosh, how long have I been avoiding vitamin A? We're going on 4.5 years now. Gosh, vitamin A is associated with BPH is the precursor step to prostate cancer. I know now I definitely have a significant need for extra zinc. And I have if you want to think of it as the weak link in my genetic chain of like where toxicity might show up in my genetics. Well, my dad died of prostate cancer. So his toxicity showed up in his prostate. My toxicity was showing up in my prostate. That's when you think of genetics, think of it as where your weak links are. That's the best way to think of it. They just show up there. So vitamin A and prostate cancer, it goes up. So now let's go into the last one I was talking about. So a lot of people have bought into the whole I3C, indole 3 carbinol, and DIM is going to save you from cancer. It's anti-estrogenic. I wouldn't believe that too much. So here's the paper. Reversible toxic effects of the dietary supplement indole 3 carbinol in an immune-compromised rodent model. Intestine as the main target. Gosh, if something made your intestine, if it targeted your intestine in a toxic way, what do you think it might cause? I don't know, maybe leaky gut, which then causes your toxic bile to leak into your bloodstream, which then causes all your health problems. Retinoic acid is a chemical peel. Retinoic acid will dissolve, just like it dissolves the layers of people's faces when it's used as a chemical peel. It will dissolve the layers of your intestine and damage the tight junctions and make them loose, leaky junctions. That's leaky gut. What does your body get rid of through the bile? Oh, retinoic acid, vitamin A. Weird coincidence. So let's just go to the last sentence. Oh, so the thing about I3C, indole 3 carbinol, is it turns into DIM, diindolyl methane. These are sulfur compounds that are typically found in cruciferous vegetables. Some of you out there still may not realize that all of the major cruciferous vegetables that people eat today, the main ones being like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, they didn't exist until humans hybridized them out of mustard plants. Okay? All of the cruciferous vegetables that they're pushing on you today as being good for you, they're all super high in sulfur. Sulfur slows down your detox. It does. You don't believe everybody who's like, you need more sulfur to run your detox. They are They don't understand. It's very easy to find how sulfur, sulfates, sulfides, magnesium sulfate, as in Epsom salts, they slow down detox. They make more hydrogen sulfide in you. Hydrogen sulfide is poisonous. So let's go over. And this is something that they recommend as treatment for cancer. Okay. So let's say you have women taking DIM or I3C for their breast cancer. And maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but now they're getting gut cancer because they traded one disease. They used a toxin to trade one disease state for another. That's what I'm saying can happen, folks. We're not trying to trade here. We're not bargaining and trading. That's not what I want to do. That's not my goal. Let's go into this. So this is, they had a rodent model of immune deficient mice. Well, let me help you out with what does an immune deficient mouse mean? Or what does an immune deficient person, immune compromised person, what does this mean? It means they are toxic and likely nutrient deficient. Okay? We see white blood cells as an example. Chronic immune compromised people tend to have low white blood cell counts. This is known. Autoimmune people tend to have low white blood cell counts. Cancer folks tend to have low white blood cell counts. This is a toxicity state of their, if you think of your immune system as being the garbage cleanup, like the garbage men, then you start to understand if you've had too much garbage for too long, your white blood cell count goes down. It doesn't go up anymore. It becomes exhausted. Okay? So, in this study, rodent model of immune deficient male BALB/C new athymic mice were given diets supplemented with 0 to 100 micromoles of I3C per gram of diet for 4 weeks. Here we go. We found that BALB mice were not viable after 3 days on a 100 micromoles I3C per gram supplemented diet. Hold on 1 second. These mice were not viable. What does viable mean? Let's just go over the definition. Capable of living, developing, or germinating under favorable conditions. Capable of living outside the uterus, used for a fetus or newborn. Okay, so they're saying if your fetus or newborn is not viable, they're dead. Now, first one we said capable of living. So if they are not viable or not developing, they're either dead or they are, it's going real bad real quick. So, wow. Sulfur compound, basically killing mice, 100 micrograms per gram of supplemented diet. Switching to the control diet without I3C after first detection of stress resulted in a 75% recovery of mice. That means 1 out of every 4 still died. Mice fed with 10 to 50 micromoles of I3C per gram of supplemented diet survived, but showed concentration-dependent adverse effects. More importantly, the intestine appeared to be the target of I3C toxicity. Number and width of intestinal villi were significantly altered by I3C, they mean damaged and destroyed, which associated with a dose-dependent reduction in cell proliferation and increase in apoptosis, cell death. Other molecular effects observed for I3C include activation of multiple xenobiotic metabolism pathways. Why would something that's good for you be stimulating detox pathways? Probably because it's toxic. This is one thing you have to register in your head, folks. If you are taking something that stimulates detox pathways, but it's not something it's not an essential nutrient. And by essential, I mean the essential nutrients. If you are stimulating detox pathways, that means you're turning them on. Why would your body turn on pathways that it didn't need unless it needed them? And this thing is saying it's killing these mice at a high enough dose, and it's stimulating. Xeno means like, here, let me get the definition. I just want to say this right for everybody. xenobiotic, not a natural component of a particular organism or biological system, used of chemical compounds or relating to a substance foreign to the body or ecological system. So if I3C and by extension DIM, which is what the body can turn it into, that's what everybody brags about, or some people just skip the I3C step and then take DIM. It's stimulating foreign chemical detox pathways. That should not excite you. That should raise eyebrows and make you go, that doesn't sound good. It's damaging the villi. You know what other disease damages the villi? Oh, you mean celiac disease? And then we've been over before about how celiac disease, in the model they were trying to do on mouse cells, where they were trying to create a celiac model on mouse intestinal cells. The researchers could not create the model without adding retinoic acid, the active form of vitamin A. So you had to have vitamin A toxicity to create celiac and destroy the villi. With vitamin A destroying villi, what compound might do that of vitamin A? Maybe retinoic acid, a chemical peel that dissolves cells. Do you see where all this is going? They couldn't make celiac without retinoic acid. They couldn't dissolve enough cells. So, the last sentence. This is the first study to report hazardous effects of I3C supplementation that are specific to the gastrointestinal tract in an immune-compromised model and should serve as caution in using I3C as dietary supplements. This study was 2017, folks. I'm going to guess the supplement companies didn't really want to tell you about this one, so they just kind of forgot about it. Okay? So, oh wait, I just took all those. Anyway, here, let me do. I was deleting all my tabs. I don't know if you guys know this, but I save all these tabs for people in the inner circle. The inner circle is my video Q&A that I do right after this, where if you remember, you get unlimited questions. But I save all those tabs, and we have a research database where we keep all these links so we can search them if, let's say, PubMed was being difficult in its searching, or if we're looking for specific terms. So it's pretty cool. David Hagerson has really helped us out with that. So let me look at the super chats now. So we went through that stuff. So M&M Professional Window Cleaners Limited. Let me blow my nose. I did a sinus rinse this morning. Those of you who have done those know that you can get a little water back in your sinuses that sometimes comes out a little later. So anyway, M&M, thank you for the super chat, M&M. He asks, if ibuprofen and Tylenol are both really bad as painkillers, what should someone take if they need a painkiller? Well, so this is where we get into things that make your body do something, right? We're taking a painkiller to make our body do something, like receive less pain signals to the brain. Generally, these things, this is where you have to use your brain on this, everybody. These things are not good for us. They're making your body do something that it doesn't want to do. Your body has that pain for a reason. So if we want to shut it down, you're making a trade-off. Life is trade-offs. Acetaminophen, Tylenol, paracetamol is super bad for the liver. Ibuprofen's not good either. Let's see if we can find this. Here's the paper. Here's a fun paper. Ibuprofen alters human testicular physiology to produce a state of compensated hypogonadism. That's low hormone production. Gosh, it's almost like they want us sick, infertile, and dying early. So weird. It's like there's this pattern over and over. So, well, I'll just answer your question simply. If I need something for pain, need, not want. Most Americans out there, most Westerners, are absolute sissies about discomfort. Okay. Most people, I'm not saying people necessarily here, but possibly plenty of people here, I don't know, are absolute wussies about any kind of pain. And they'll pop pills for anything that is uncomfortable. And then they wonder why they get sicker and sicker and why they're having to take more and more of them, because that's how this works. The more toxic you are, the more sensitive you become to pain. Or you can go the other way if you use capsaicin, where capsaicin actually fries the pain nerves. Like if people use capsaicin on their lower legs for diabetic neuropathy, it actually fries the pain nerves. One thing I did the research on was when you stimulate or you burn out those pain nerves, those very same pain nerves that capsaicin works on in the gut. What they eventually saw was at first you'd see the tumors start growing, and then those tumors would turn into cancers when the TPRV receptors were gone, and that's one of the things that capsaicin burns out. Cancer would show up. So don't use the same ingredient that they use in pepper spray as a painkiller, folks. It's a bad idea. And funny thing, one of the capsaicinoids, this is a very important thing. I forget which one it is. David Hagerston found it. One of the capsaicinoids is actually, it looks exactly like two retinoic acids bound together with a little chemical bridge. 2 retinoic acids. Weird why capsaicin is known to increase inflammation. And then peppers are some of the highest vitamin A foods out there. Spicy food is bad, folks. Cops use pepper spray for a reason. It causes inflammation. Don't eat it. Don't eat inflammation. Okay? So what do I use? So there is one of the things that I did some research on and I learned in naturopathic medical school was that white willow bark, which you can get as a supplement, I want you to listen carefully. White willow bark is converted in your liver, which somebody might say could mean detoxed in your liver. White willow bark is processed, metabolized, detoxed in your liver into the same compound as aspirin. Okay? It takes about 6 times as much white willow bark to equal, the same amount of aspirin. So depending upon how big the white willow bark capsules are or whatever you got, you're going to need a lot more of it to equal the same amount of aspirin, like 6 to 1 in terms of milligram to milligram. When I use something, now post-surgery and post other stuff, you guys got to know that like in Europe, they give out way fewer painkillers than they do to Americans. Why is this? Well, Americans have gotten really, really soft, and Americans are more, in my opinion, more toxic than Europeans as a general rule. The Europeans will not let them mess with their food as much as they do here. The more toxic you get, the more sensitive to pain you get. The more vitamin A toxicity you have, the more pain you have. I've been over this before. So, if you're post-surgery, so as an example, I've had one tiny little outpatient surgery in my life. They gave me Celebrex and they gave me Vicodin. I made sure I did not touch that Celebrex. I actually had a guy I knew say that Celebrex gave him irritable bowel syndrome. And then I look up Celebrex and there's a black box warning about irritable bowel syndrome from it. So I was like, I am not touching that stuff. And that's another NSAID, I believe, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. I was not touching the Celebrex. I tried the Vicodin because I had never taken it before, and I knew that all these people were having all this weird stuff, and I tried it, and I was like, it didn't do anything for me. Vicodin did not do any pain relief for me at all. So what I use when I need it, I use Alka-Seltzer, the generic Alka-Seltzer. It is basically aspirin. 1 tablet of Alka-Seltzer is 1 capsule or tablet of aspirin. They're the equivalent. So a pack of Alka-Seltzer, which is 2 aspirin. Why do I use that? Because aspirin's been around the longest. And from what I know, aspirin's been around the longest. It seems to cause the fewest problems. when I tell people when people ask me about which drug should I use of a class of drugs, I generally say use the older one because it's been around the longest and we know what it's like. So think of it as science kind of found the older ones the easiest. And then as time went on, they needed to make patents. So they needed to tweak the molecules and tweak the molecules and tweak the molecules more, which made them more toxic and more problematic. But they needed the patent to save their money. They don't care about you. They just want a good patent. So they will tweak it. So could you use aspirin and just grind it? I mean, I like the theory of ulcers from NSAIDs and other pain-killing meds. It's a bile problem. It's showing that it's probably not the med that's causing it. It's the cholestasis and the toxic bile coming back up into your stomach because drugs cause cholestasis and toxic bile. But aspirin seems to be less. And if it's dissolved, in theory, if it was, let's say, the tablet or something kind of going to one specific spot in your stomach, let's say your stomach is just the way your stomach is set up. You swallow the pill, it goes down, and it kind of always finds the same spot, right? If it always found that same spot and dissolved right there, then it could cause problems right in that one spot. So how can we avoid that one problem? We break up the tablet into a powder that's dissolved in water. What does Alka-Seltzer do? It does that. And people will say that Alka-Seltzer or aspirin, it's kind of a buffered form of aspirin. Buffered, you know what they do to buffer? The best buffer you can do with aspirin? They use minerals like calcium and magnesium to buffer it. So if you're going to do a pain medication, my first line is buffered aspirin, preferably with, like Trader Joe's used to have buffered aspirin. It was buffered with minerals, not toxic pharmaceutical stuff. So buffered aspirin or Alka-Seltzer. And get the generic Alka-Seltzer. It's the exact same stuff as the regular Alka-Seltzer. Don't get the gold or anything, just regular Alka-Seltzer. That's what I would use. So don't give aspirin to kids either. So for kids, you're going to have to figure out something else. Look up Reyes syndrome, Reyes. This is probably another liver problem. I'm not saying anything else about it. Just don't give aspirin to kids. And only use as much as you need to take the edge off. Don't try to numb yourself into no pain. Because then you just have to take more and more. And you'll get a diminishing return on the effect. Okay? So hope that answers your question. But that's what I do. Bufferin, I don't know. Well, here, Slacker Wannabe says, but Alka-Seltzer is less harmful than aspirin. I believe, I mean, it's the base molecule is aspirin. It's acetyl salicylic acid. If you look at the label of Alka-Seltzer, normal Alka-Seltzer, it is acetyl salicylic acid, which is aspirin. I like that it's dissolved. I like that it's in its own way, it's buffered. So, now if you wanted to, if you long term, I'm not a huge fan of using cannabis, THC, CBD as a painkiller because the research I have shows that cannabinoids, the compounds in marijuana, store more vitamin A in the liver, which is not good. And generally, some people out there who do this often may not believe me, but you can see the long-term effects of long-term marijuana use in people. It's not, I mean, long-term drug users, you can see it, right? And don't tell me I don't know, because I had my years of using. I was the medical director of a dispensary here in Tucson when they had those for like 13 years. I was the medical director. I understand the topic. Don't fool yourself into thinking that marijuana is good for you. Don't. Could you use it for pain relief? Yes. Yes, and if it works for that, use it until you don't need it anymore. If you have chronic long-term pain, might medical marijuana be good? Or not good, better than other choices, right? You can have the best of the worst. Is it better than other choices? Quite possibly. What should you be working on in the meantime? Fixing the root cause of the problem. And I can tell you that whatever pain you have, toxicity makes it worse. So if you got chronic pain and you're eating nightshades all day, you're eating spicy food and you're eating potatoes and you're eating, any of these, you don't have to eat all of them, but you could be eating eggplant, you could be eating, tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, and peppers. If you're eating a lot of inflammatory foods and you're eating lots of vitamin A because it's healthy and you got duped into that, you're going to hurt more. You're taking calcium and vitamin D, which is calcifying you. You're going to hurt more. So there are tons of things in your diet that you can fix. You could do more magnesium. There's lots of things you can do. So Emma's asking, are you aware of kratom as a pain reliever or relaxant? I know people who've gotten addicted to kratom and who they have it's related to opioids. I'm not an expert on kratom, but if you're using an herb, herbs are mild drugs. Don't fool yourself that they're anything else. I know a guy who had a horrible addiction to kratom. It's a drug. It's making your body do something. It's a drug. If something kills pain that your body put there, and it makes it go away for a while, but you have to keep doing it to get the effect, and maybe the effect starts wearing off over time, what are the markers of a drug effect? Tolerance. You need more of that compound over time to get the same effect. Dependence. You start to feel like you can't function without that thing. And withdrawal. Negative symptoms that show up when you stop taking that thing. Does coffee fit into all of these? Caffeine? Yeah, absolutely. Do pain medications often fit into all of these things? Yes. Okay. Our goal is to fix the problem. So, and this is just the reality. Like, can we use these things at certain times? Like, if I was going into, oh my gosh, something happened, I'm taking Alka-Seltzer, I'm taking aspirin. My first thought, well, after getting the pain down, would be, what can I do? What have I been doing that might have made this worse? If it's like a chronic thing creeping up on you, then you can think about, what have I been changing in my diet? What have I not been doing well? What have I been eating? You can look at the long-term things. If it's something acute, like, I don't know, you sprained your ankle and you're like, I want to take this because the pain is so bad. Okay, take it. But just realize that the long-term thing, that's going to slow your healing a bit. Okay. And you should be looking at, what can I do to make my ankle stronger? What can I do to heal this faster so the pain goes away? What can I not eat to make the pain better? And what can I do to strengthen this area so that it doesn't happen again? Okay? That's what you should be trying to do. We don't want to get stuck on pain meds. And they're making it, they've made it, thank goodness, they made opioids a lot harder to get. But for some reason, fentanyl's been so much easier to get. Oh, here's a fun study. Here, let me go find this one. Oh, wait. Where was it? Come on. There, let me go to PubMed itself. There was a paper. So imagine, let's just say, I don't remember if I went over this. Oh, not that. Why can I not find this paper anymore? I'm gonna have to find another. If somebody else wants to look for it real quick, it was a paper on fentanyl and retinoic acid actually causing worse reactions together. Weird if I'm saying that there's like a vitamin A toxicity epidemic in the West, and there's this weird fentanyl problem that just seems to be creeping into our country worse and worse. And fentanyl plus vitamin A toxicity is even more toxic. What a weird coincidence. It's almost like they're working on making us sick, infertile, dying early. It's just such a weird coincidence. Why would they put out that study? I need to find that paper. What article did I put it in? Oh. Hold on, let me find it. I want to find this. Here, let me go. It's in here. Or I know where I could go find it. There it is. Yes, I know it. I know it's in here. It's in my Hype Fury where I was writing a big draft of stuff. Where is it? Gonna have to look on my phone. Tyler Ginter, those of you who are members of the network know exactly who Tyler Ginter is. Let me find it. He sent it to me. This paper, it was bonkers when he sent it. Okay. Fentanyl. The risk or severity of elevated intracranial pressure can be increased when fentanyl is combined with tretinoin. That's what I wasn't looking for. Drug bank, fentanyl, tretinoin. So tretinoin, if you didn't know, is all trans retinoic acid. Oh man. Let's see. There it is. I want to give you guys this Oh, did they remove this fentanyl thing from this page? Oh boy. Well, I'm gonna have to find it later. Maybe I'll post it later. It's not finding it in this page. EB00755. Yep. Well, here, if somebody else wants to look through this page, it's not showing up. But I mean, Tyler had copied and pasted the quote from the page. Weird that it disappeared. Play the Twilight Zone music now. So wild. Okay. Let me just make sure there's no more super chats that snuck in. Okay. So Sam asked, so I'm back to the top of the questions. If you have a super chat, you can get it in there. Sam asked, you previously mentioned that there is no harm in eating natural fructose. Example in bananas. But what do you think of the more sugary fruits such as dates or prunes? Should one be careful with them? Well, okay, let me give an extreme example. I have a friend, a guy, a good buddy of mine, who nearly killed himself on basically a fruitarian diet. He was doing, I forget what the name of the dietary approach was, but it was a very interesting dietary approach where you would smell and taste, like, let's say you'd have different types of fruits around. You'd go to the store and you would smell, the fruit and see which one really smelled or taste. I don't know if he'd tasted, he might, but smelled or tasted really good to you that day. And his diet that day would be that fruit. He said, I think one day he ate like 30 oranges or 25 bananas. And that would be his diet for the day. He nearly died of sepsis later on. He went to the hospital and they were saying it was sepsis. And I back then I was like, well, if you look up sepsis and candida, sepsis is like a massive candida overgrowth in the blood. Well, what have we been over here that sepsis really is? Toxic bile in the blood. So if you want to grow bad things, just put toxic stuff everywhere. So can you overdo fruit? Sure. That's an extreme example. I've had people here in the comments that when I tell them some days I eat 4 bananas, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's too much sugar." And I'm like, "Well, I seem to be doing all right. So maybe I shouldn't worry about I don't know. What is it? Like 20 grams of sugar in a banana each one? I don't remember what it is. I'm not going to worry about that. Now, if you get into the really sweet, the like high glycemic, I'm not saying glycemic index is everything, but if you get into the really high glycemic index fruits, like dates, dried fruits are going to have a higher glycemic index. And they're really, if you have blood sugar problems, they're going to cause you issues. The really high sugar fruits, well, here's one of the things you can do. If you kind of have like you get a buzz from high sugar fruits and a crash afterwards, you're probably not ready for that yet. Or maybe it was just too much. Okay, there's people when they come over, like especially you low carb, keto, all carnivore people, and you come over to this approach and you start thinking, oh, I'm just going to eat tons of carbs and it's going to be fine. It may or it may not be. This would be like somebody who just gets out of a cast and they're just like, well, I'm going to start sprinting. And you're like, it's probably not a good idea. You may not be dealing with these things really well yet. Does that make sense? Like sometimes we have to slowly introduce carbs into the system. Now, prunes, I actually talk about prunes in the program. Prunes can be used quite effectively to help with pooping. And pooping is your most critical avenue for detox. That is how you get rid of bile the best. So we want to poop. The other people out in the vitamin A community will be like, oh my gosh, prunes, they have vitamin A. I can't eat those. And I go, I would much rather you poop than not poop. So if somebody could eat like 4, 5, 6 prunes, like just moderate sized ones, and they can poop when before they couldn't, I think that's a great trade-off, honestly. And then as they get better, they need less prunes. We have a woman who's been with us who's basically she's in her, I believe she's in her 60s, who has been constipated her entire life. And we have now got her to pooping 2 or 3 times a day. The value of that to detox, I mean, her detox was difficult before because she wasn't pooping. So one of the things that fruit can help with is pooping. So that can be an extreme. We have to look at all these things. Now, when people are talking to me, let's say they're getting packages with the consultation packages with me, and we have our coaching calls each week, our office hours. I can help guide them as to whether something is better, the overall, if we're looking at pros and cons, we can decide what's working and what's not. Because somebody was like, there was once somebody who's like, I'm on 15 prunes a day. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot. But then I think about the next week or two, she was like, well, I found out I didn't need that many prunes. And now she was down to like 5 or 6 a day. And I was like, that sounds a lot better. That's much better. So I'll put it this way. Could somebody shove down so much fruit that they could cause themselves problems? Sure. But is there a more normal amount of fruit? So this is one thing, Sam, I think you're asking me for that I don't give. You want black and white. I don't give black and white answers because everything needs context. So if somebody was like, I'm eating like, I don't want to eat grains or beans or whatever, I'm just going to eat fruit and meat, and but they're like, wow, I seem to be having all these blood sugar problems, swings, crashes. I'd be like, maybe you need to get some slower releasing carbs in there. Or maybe you're just not doing so well with the fruit you chose. So dates are notoriously high sugar. Those could easily cause issues. Prunes, I don't think are that high compared to a lot of dried fruit, but they have the benefit of helping you poop specifically. So could it be overdone? Sure. Yeah. Folks, I'm going to tell you one of the mistakes that people make when they look into this work is they think it's all black and white. And none of this is black and white. If you're eating real food, you're going to be eating some level of toxins in all of it. You have to, what we're trying to do to help people get better is to figure out what is the lowest amount of toxins that you can eat and how can we choose foods to facilitate that. Like I heard people saying they were trying to do a 0 vitamin A diet, and I'm like, there is no such thing. There is absolutely no such thing unless you are eating like industrially processed things down to, like, let's say you were eating collagen for your protein and you were eating, I don't know, refined coconut oil for your fat, and you were eating for your carbs, I don't know, white sugar. Does that sound like a healthy diet to you? People will be like, but it's no vitamin A. And I'm like, I don't care. You're probably going to die on that diet. You may feel amazing for a little while because it's a super low toxin diet, but there's probably some stuff in there you're missing. Okay, so we must not lose sight of the reality and the goal. And the goal is for you to be able to function in the real world again. Not to just go zero toxin, but so many people out there are just so like, they think if this thing's bad, don't ever eat it. I would bet, I'm not going to go look it up, but I would bet there's some amount of fructose in vegetables. Potentially even, I don't know, in some sort of fructose in beans or even grains. And so if we start saying none of that, I don't know. I'm not making a claim. I'm just saying this is where people take it too far. And then they say, well, I can't. If you take away everything because of some amount of toxin in it, you're left with nothing to eat. And the guaranteed thing that will kill you is starvation. Okay. I don't believe in breatharians. I just don't. If it was that easy, more than one person would be doing it, supposedly. Okay. Sam says, what is my opinion on grains? There has been a lot of talk that they should be avoided altogether. I don't. Again, so see, Sam, where you're going with this, we could avoid all fruit. Okay, there's none of that. And then because some people maybe on the network or on other forums are saying grains should be avoided altogether, you start running out of things to eat. Just because somebody is on my network or somebody's on a forum and they say they pull something out of their ass and they say it doesn't mean it's true. It does not mean it's true. We've had people do great on like a beef and oats diet. We've had people do great on a beef and beans diet. We've had people there. Some of the lowest vitamin A numbers I've ever seen were on people who did a beef and white rice diet. But one of those guys after it said, I'm not sure, but I think I either got arsenic toxicity or B1 deficiency because a beef and white rice diet was missing something. That's why I said we don't worry about the 0 vitamin A diet, because you're probably going to miss something. Researchers in the past have said, they specifically said that a 0 vitamin A diet is not possible, and that if one was likely to be developed, it would be lacking in certain nutrients that for sure would cause other problems, which is exactly what I'm repeating here, which is what I believe. So if you start saying, so somebody's going to say, well, you shouldn't eat beans because of this, and you shouldn't eat grains because of this, and you shouldn't eat fruits because of this, and you shouldn't eat vegetables because vegetables are going to have some amount of vitamin A in them. Oh, and you shouldn't eat meat because of iron. And you shouldn't eat chicken because there's this weird protein in it that one doctor found reduced inflammation in his clients when they didn't eat chicken. You shouldn't eat fish because of mercury and all the chemicals and pharmaceuticals in it. And then you're left with nothing to eat. People who are not, let me give you a tip. People who are not responsible, who have zero responsibility for other people's health. Like what I'm saying is I have responsibility for other people's. I take responsibility for what they're doing. They pay me money to take some of the responsibility for what they're doing. People who are posting on forums or even on my network, or let's say Ray Pete, who used to answer emails for free and he had no clinic, no regular paying clients. They have no skin in the game. And if they mess you up, what are you going to say? I read your forum post and I decided to make a stupid decision based on what you wrote, and now I'm messed up. This is why I say here, if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. So if somebody comes to me and they're like, well, I took XYZ, ABC out of my diet, and now I'm losing weight because there's nothing to eat, I'm going to say, I didn't say to do that. I didn't say to do that. I had a guy once call me from the grocery store. He was a X-ray Peter, and he was reading my stuff, and he was reading all sorts of stuff on the internet. And he said, I'm in the grocery store, and there's absolutely nothing I can eat. And I said, I didn't tell you to do that. I said, you're taking too many people's garbage on the internet and deciding that everything has, if anything has some amount of problems, that you won't eat it. And I said, you're going to starve. I said, how about you follow one person? Like maybe me. God, freaking leaky nose. And he came around and he started eating some things. Like we have people come on the network sometimes every once in a while and they're like, iron overload is causing everything and you need to avoid all the iron. And I say, well, did you know that vitamin A increases iron absorption? Which is hilarious because the protocol people keep pushing vitamin A and they keep pushing iron overload, and they seem to ignore the research where vitamin A increases iron absorption. Oops. And I can tell you, with all the labs I've watched, generally ferritin, this is not always true, but generally ferritin and vitamin A go up and down like this on the blood tests. They go up and down together. That's a weird coincidence considering the research says that vitamin A increases iron absorption. And what do they give people when their iron is low? Well, they give them liver, which is full of vitamin A. And they see their iron go up, but they've just made their liver more vitamin A toxic and copper toxic, which was possibly how they got the problem in the first place. And then when, like, let's say those pregnant anemic women get off the liver, their iron just goes back to low again. Nothing was fixed. Nothing was fixed. They fixed one problem with a toxin and created another problem. Do you see the pattern here? So let me get to these other super chats. Let me find them. Okay. Free Michigan said, I just had a bioenergetics test and it says I had a high Bartonella. My cat also has Bartonella. How do I treat both my cat and I so we can get rid of it? I don't treat infections here on the podcast or the live stream. Let me see if I can find something for you, though. I don't treat cats. So here, I'm going to put a link in the chat. Let me check another thing. Yeah. Try one more thing. Yeah. Okay. So that's what that link, if you choose to follow or pursue anything in that link, that is up to you. I'm not a fan of cats. I'll put it that way. I will never live in a house with cats. Take it for what it will. Take it for what you will. I don't want cats around. So the Bartonella thing, yeah, I don't treat specific conditions here, but the way I think of these things is if an infection is thriving, there's some sort of toxicity or deficiency going on. Kind of the terrain is everything idea. If your terrain is supporting this, there's a reason. So just go check one thing. Nope. I was just looking to see if there was any vitamin A connection. Hold on. So, as they're saying, Bartonella is commonly a Lyme disease co-infection. What's one of the things I treat all the time? I treat iron overload and I treat copper toxicity. And as I was looking around, I found this paper, a novel iron and copper binding protein in the Lyme disease spirochete. So, yeah. Weird that it would have a protective mechanism against this stuff. Binding proteins are there to, they bind, so it makes something less toxic. That's what antibodies do. But a bioenergetics test may be complete horse pucky, if you will. With a lot of these bioenergetics tests, the first question I ask is, okay, so you have the frequency of the disease. And they go, yes, okay. So I say, who figured out that frequency was that disease? And they say, well, most of the time I don't think the person knows what they're answering. They'll say, well, they compared a healthy person to a person who has, and I'm like, they seriously found all these people with all these diseases. And they were able to eke out which frequency was for which disease, even though people who were sick usually have multiple diseases at once. They were able to figure out all these. And then I say, who the heck was the absolutely healthy person that they found? Where'd they find that person? So a lot of these energetic tests, I'll put it this way. I don't use them anymore. I know about them. I watched my now ex-wife I was trying to get her some help. That wasn't from me because, you're never an expert in your own home. So I was trying to find her experts outside, and we did some of those bioenergetic tests, and nothing ever got better. Or maybe something would get a little better for a month, and then at the end of the month, they give them new remedies, and something, it was like whack-a-mole. You'd see some symptoms go down, but other symptoms would pop up, and then you see some, they'd whack those down, and then other ones would pop up. Most of the time, they're just giving homeopathic or energetic remedies, but they're usually not dealing with what I consider the root cause, which is toxicity and deficiency. So I hope you find that link helpful. What you choose to do with that information is at your own risk. I mean, all of this is at your own risk. I'm a doctor, but I'm not, if you're not working directly with me, I'm not your doctor. And if you were working with me, the place to ask these questions would be in the office hours, my coaching time. So David says, I know eggs are, another super chat. Sorry, thank you for that, Free Michigan. David's super chat, thank you. He says, I know eggs are high in carotenoids / vitamin A, but does cooking them not destroy some of it, making it not so bad? Love the live streams, my friend. Well, you are welcome. Thank you. Glad to have you here. Okay. This is an important thing to know. The detoxification of carotenoids, retinoids, is an oxidative process. Okay. What are some of the known oxidative things, processes that we can do to things? Light, air, heat. Okay. So as an example, I'll bring this up like butter. You ever notice how butter gets more yellow when you melt it? You ever notice that if that butter hardens up again, it's more yellow than it was before? You oxidized some of the vitamin A in it. It didn't leave. It just changed form. Does that make sense? So cooking eggs, like we know that oxidized cholesterol, one of the things that people will say about egg yolks is try not to cook them really hard because you oxidize the cholesterol in the egg yolks, and oxidized cholesterol is really bad for you. Well, so if it's oxidizing the cholesterol in the egg yolks, and they know that that's not good for you, what happens when you oxidize the vitamin A? And I'm going to tell you that when you start with carotenoids they're still toxic, but they're the least toxic, in my opinion, of all the vitamin A compounds, of all the vitamin A family. There's a process called intoxification, also known as biotransformation, which is the known process of when you are detoxing a compound. It's going through the detox pathways. And it becomes more toxic. I'm going to tell you that carotenoids are way less toxic than retinoic acids. A very weird thing about alcohol is it seems that acetaldehyde is probably the most toxic one. So it goes from ethanol to acetaldehyde. That's what will cause your hangovers. That's what will cause all of your inflammation from it. That's what will cause you to get alcohol poisoning and potentially die, is the acetaldehyde. And then that turns into acetic acid, which is basically the same compound as vinegar. I don't think vinegar is a health food. I don't know how bad it is, though. But generally, what we see in vitamin A is we see carotenoids, retinol, retinaldehyde, retinoic acid. Retinoic acid is by far the most toxic. Carotenoids are the least toxic. So in a certain way, like normally our body moves these toxins through their detox pathway, but they're becoming more toxic. So if you're cooking eggs, so we have to move it through the detox pathway. That's part of how we get rid of it. But if you move it through the detox pathway by cooking it, I don't know that you're necessarily helping yourself. Do you see what I mean? Like the casein protein, the casein, however you want to say it, the casein protein that they use in the no vitamin A, the vitamin A deficiency animal studies. If you look at normal casein, it's white. And if you look at the no vitamin A casein that they use in the animal studies, it's a yellowish tint. It's an off-white or yellowish tint. And what did they do to remove the vitamin A? They treated it with alcohol and they heated it. What made the vitamin A disappear? Why is it now yellow? Did they just turn it into retinoic acid that they didn't measure for? So you see, things aren't necessarily leaving, and oxidizing them doesn't necessarily make them better. So I hope that answers your question. A lot of people think that if you just change the form of vitamin A, that somehow it's gone, because when they measure it again, it's not there. It's still there. They never measure retinoic acid content of foods. They never measure retinaldehyde content of foods. They measure retinol and the pro-vitamin A carotenoids like beta-carotene. A lot of times they don't talk about the non-pro-vitamin A carotenoids, the ones that don't turn into retinol, and then they don't mention it in the vitamin A content. Well, they don't have to mention. Did you know that they don't have to mention the vitamin A content of foods on the labels anymore? It's now completely optional for the food companies. It's almost like there's people out there talking about vitamin A toxicity now. And if people actually looked at how much vitamin A they were consuming by looking on the labels, they might realize, holy crap, we're being poisoned. So you leave them in the dark. Don't label it. You don't have to label it anymore. They also have said that vitamin A deficiency in the US, this is on the CDC or I think the FDA's webpage about it. They say vitamin A in the US is extremely rare. Vitamin A deficiency is extremely rare in the US. So why do we have everybody talking about it? It is rare. So what that means is if you have a compound that supposedly could cause deficiency, but we also know it's guaranteed to cause toxicity in significant amounts. If deficiency doesn't exist or is extremely rare, which it doesn't exist, the only thing you're heading towards is toxicity. Does that make sense? They're saying everybody has plenty of it. And I've shown that the study from, I think it was 2018, where a third of the cadavers they looked at out of 27 cadavers they looked at, and they took chunks of their liver to analyze it for vitamin A, which is the gold standard. One out of every three cadavers that they looked at had diagnosable vitamin A toxicity in their liver. It's an epidemic, folks. So Jamie, the next so thanks for that super chat, David. It doesn't make it necessarily so bad. If you've looked at my eggs on Twitter thread, my Twitter thread about eggs, country after country, condition after condition, the more eggs, the worse the conditions. The rogue vitamin A toxicity group, which is talking about eggs saving the day. I've talked to multiple people who have said that they tried doing that. The eggs made them worse. I've talked to multiple people who said that they never started getting better until they took these ungodly amounts of eggs out of their diet. Eggs are one way that chicken detox. Adult human women detox toxins through their breast milk. Just because something's being born doesn't mean it's coming out like non-toxic. Why do we make a placenta? The placenta is a disposable liver. Don't eat it. Throw it away. It's garbage. The placenta is meant to absorb the toxins and hold the toxins so that hopefully too many of them don't go into the baby. That's why the placenta is disposable. And for those of you who will say, well, why do some animals eat the placenta? You want to know why they do this? What researchers have suggested? So if you're a prey animal, not a predator, and you pop out a baby and a placenta, and you don't want the predator to know that there's a new baby around, what could the mother do as a sacrifice? Because mothers sacrifice for their children, do they not? The mother will sacrifice her health in a way by eating the placenta so the predator doesn't find the placenta and go, there's a tasty new baby around. I should go find it. Because nature is survival. So sometimes we do, animals and humans will do things that are not good for them so they can survive, because we choose the slow death over the quick death. That's what our body does. That's what the micro does. That's what the macro does. Okay. So Free Michigan added, you have very, very low ferritin. Well, you have a significant liver toxicity issue then. Ferritin goes, if you're eating plenty of iron in your diet, like through beef or dark meat chicken, basically, generally, if a person's eating meat, they shouldn't have low iron unless there's a problem with your liver. When we see people going low ferritin, really low copper, low vitamin A, and if they tend to be underweight, that's what I call an undertype. You don't have to have all of them, but that's what I call an undertype, and that means the liver's in a deeper toxicity state. So that's what we do. We work on that. So Jamie asks, thank you for the super chat, Jamie. Jamie asks, dear doc, can vitamin K accumulate to toxic levels in the liver? What exactly are the quote safe dosing parameters of K2/MK4? You want black and white? Sorry. Black and white does not happen here. Vitamin K is a different fat soluble vitamin than the other ones. So when you look at the other fat soluble vitamins with giant quotes around it, vitamin A is an alcohol and an aldehyde and an acid. And I have an article on the network where I go over how vitamin E is an alcohol, and there seem to be some aldehyde forms of it, and there's acid forms of it. And vitamin D, cholecalciferol, calcitriol, is an alcohol, and there's aldehyde forms of it, and there's acid forms of it. I personally, when something is an alcohol, an aldehyde, and an acid, I personally have a lot of difficulty thinking it's a vital, essential thing for us to live. Like, why are so many alcohols toxic? But all of a sudden, these three are okay. All these aldehydes are toxic, but all of a sudden, oh, these three are okay. That's a stretch. That's what I'm saying on that note. Vitamin K is different. Vitamin K is a quinone. So it's a totally different class of molecule. And we can see things like with warfarin that are vitamin K antagonists, that those cause a lot of bleeding. Those of you who have watched anybody who's on Coumadin or warfarin after years, they start getting the easy bruising. They just basically slowly fall apart. And they use Coumadin, warfarin as rat poison. That's the first line of rat poison. If you didn't know what the second line of rat poison is that they use after Coumadin and warfarin, after the rats or the mice have adapted, because they adapt to the poison. Nature finds a way, as they said in Jurassic Park. When the Coumadin and the warfarin don't work on the rats or mice anymore, guess what they give? Vitamin D. They give vitamin D blocks to the rats and mice. Vitamin D is the second level poison after Coumadin and warfarin. So if you look in the research, it is extremely difficult to find toxicity or side effects of the natural forms of vitamin K. It's very difficult to find anything on it. What you may find people talking about vitamin K toxicity or side effects is on vitamin K3, which is a totally synthetic, totally man-made, and that does not occur in nature form of vitamin K that they used to give to babies in injections. Oops, but babies were dying. Whoopsie. They still let them put it in your dog food. Certain dog foods will use it. That's so nice of them. Now, I have seen some people who take vitamin K supplements. They actually this is rare. Like, I could probably count this on one hand. People who get like sensitive teeth from it fairly quickly. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what some of the other minor side effects were. And I just tell people who have that, stop taking it. I've seen vitamin K help with excessive bruising. I've seen it help with gums bleeding. I've seen it help with sensitive teeth. I've seen it help with people who seem to have excessive bleeding times. Like, if they got the question I asked them, if you have a cut or a nosebleed, does it seem to take a lot longer to stop bleeding than it should? And if they have that, that usually comes with easy bruising. And by easy bruising, I mean, do you often have bruises that you don't know where they came from? That's a very simple definition of easy bruising. Like, if you knock your arm on something hard, soft enough that you didn't even really notice it, and you still bruise, that's easy bruising. So bleeding gums and sensitive teeth, those are pretty self-explanatory. And then, so I've helped those things in certain people with vitamin K. What is the vitamin K doing in the system? Well, people, there's all sorts of research on all these things, and there's research on vitamin A doing all sorts of things, and I don't believe most of that. So, what is the safe dose? I mean, there's the studies, you can look them up on MK4, where they were trying to decalcify the carotid arteries. And they were giving 45 milligrams, 45,000 micrograms a day of MK4. Most supplements, so it wasn't MK7, for those of you who are wondering. MK7 is typically dosed in like 90 micrograms, 100 micrograms, maybe 200 micrograms. They were giving MK4, which usually requires higher doses. There's advantages and disadvantages to both of them, but the MK4 they were giving was 45 milligrams, so 45,000 micrograms. And I think I want to say it was like 2 or 3 months. And it worked. So what does that mean? Did they ever do a biopsy of the liver to look for it, to look for how much vitamin K was stored in there? No. Nobody. It's very hard to find liver studies of how much vitamin K is stored in the liver, if any, because I don't know if quinones are stored. Let me see. So, yeah, there's not a lot on it. It's hard to find. What is the safe dose? I mean, I usually tell people, like, let's say, here's how we do it. We do it as science. So remember, each person out there is an experiment of one. So each person has to figure out what works for them and what doesn't. When you ask what's the safe dosing parameters of vitamin K2, if somebody starts taking 1 drop of the Thorne vitamin K2 drops and they get sensitive teeth, that's their toxic dose. Simple as that. If people can take more, what I generally tell people is, let's say they had some of those vitamin K, the supposed vitamin K deficiency signs or symptoms. They had the easy bruising, the bleeding time stuff, the bleeding gums, or the sensitive teeth. First, if they try vitamin K and it doesn't help, if it doesn't help, you got to give vitamin K like a month. You got to give it a month to see if it's going to help. It takes a while. It's not like B vitamins where you could feel it that day. You might feel vitamin K that day, but more likely if you're trying to fix like sensitive teeth, you have to kind of rebuild them. So it takes a while. So I tell people to give vitamin K a month, unless they get symptoms first that they don't like and they think it's the vitamin K. Then they would stop it, see if the symptoms go away. And then if they want to, they could try it again and see if the symptoms come back. And if they confirm that the symptoms come back 2 times, they can be pretty sure that either they don't need that extra vitamin K, their body doesn't like the vitamin K, or they're not ready for it right now. So you see how one reaction could mean multiple things. Maybe you're not ready for it yet. Maybe it's just too much. Maybe your body doesn't like it at all. Does that mean everybody's body is the same in that way? No. So I typically, my dosing on MK4 by itself is the standard dose that I keep people at is I stay 5,000 micrograms or below of MK4. You try to do that with MK7, you're going to be using a whole bottle a day. Because 200, even if you had a 200 microgram capsule, that's going to be like, is that going to be like 50 capsules a day? That's not what we're trying to do. The MK7 is different. Somebody kind of said in the network that MK4 doesn't seem to be effective during the research. And I said, well, my clients may say that they differ from that opinion because MK4 does work. You can, and when I use pills, I use mixed ones that have often K1 and MK4 and MK7 in them. But if let's say somebody had one of those 4 symptoms or more than one of those 4 symptoms and they take the vitamin K for, well, let's go over, let me back up. On this channel, I've been over how there are multiple studies in animals showing that vitamin A depletes vitamin K. So what would be the root cause of a vitamin K deficiency? Well, vitamin A toxicity. So why don't we fix that first, right? Why don't we work on that? If somebody wants to, if you think of taking vitamin K along that journey, that would be kind of medicating a symptom. Do we need vitamin K? In theory, yes, it's an essential vitamin. So do we need it? In theory, yes. So if you have symptoms of vitamin K deficiency, we can do two things. We try to fix the root cause, which is the vitamin A toxicity and the toxic bile, because that's where the vitamin A is going. That's causing all the problems. And then we can, in the meantime, we can address the symptom, the low vitamin K. So let's say what we see over time is we see this work. Over time, as people become less toxic in vitamin A, as they go long enough, no, this isn't a month. Don't think this is a month. As they go longer and they get less toxic in vitamin A, all of a sudden, they find that they can stop the vitamin K supplement and the symptoms don't return. If you don't know, your vitamin K in your body is supposed to be made by your gut biome. Your vitamin K is supposed to be made by your gut biome. You're not supposed to have, like when you look at the vitamin K list in foods, it's a super short list. Like you could never expect to get vitamin K enough from foods. Like having to eat natto is not a viable solution. That doesn't make any sense that you would have to culture soybeans with a very specific bacteria to make vitamin K. That doesn't make any sense. So our gut biome is supposed to make our vitamin K. Why would our gut biome not be making vitamin K? Because your toxic bile is destroying the part of your gut biome that makes vitamin K. So the long-term solution is to fix the toxicity of your bile so that it's not killing that part of your gut biome. And when your bile becomes less toxic enough that that part of your gut biome can regrow and flourish, it starts making vitamin K and you don't need it. And that's when we see people able to quit their vitamin K and not have their old symptoms come back. Now, if you quit vitamin K and you're wondering if your old symptoms are going to come back, you need to wait at least a month. So it's a month to watch for vitamin K to help. And it's a month of after you stop it to really be looking and see if the symptoms are coming back. Vitamin K is just a slow burn. You gotta give it time. But does vitamin K accumulate to toxic levels in the liver? I don't know. I tell people if vitamin K is not feeling good, you stop it. And when you don't need it anymore, you stop it. Because our goal is to not need it anymore. So this is how this is why I don't think about these things, is because I'm usually telling people if you're not feeling better from it, stop taking it, right? If somebody quit, I tell them also about the month. If you quit vitamin K and you had easy bruising before and you stop the vitamin K and a month later, the easy bruising's back. If you want that easy bruising to go away again, you got to get back on the vitamin K and give it another month to really see that it's going to help. But over time, the quote unquote need for it should go away. This is how we avoid the toxicity of a lot of things, especially B vitamins. If B vitamins help you with if a B vitamin or a couple of them help your situation, you can take them. They're antidoting something. Nobody should have to have mega doses of B vitamins to live unless they need it as a constant antidote to something they are poisoning themselves with. Okay? Nobody should need to be injecting B12 for the rest of their life. If they are poisoning themselves. Somehow, they just haven't realized how they're poisoning themselves. Now, what is B12 an antidote for? Hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide toxicity is antidoted. Let's say somebody decided they were going to take MSM, or they were going to eat tons of egg whites, or they were going to take Epsom salt baths. And they kept putting more and more, they're going to eat cruciferous vegetables. They're going to eat garlic and onions. They just don't believe me that sulfur slows detox. And they put in tons of sulfur, sulfates, sulfides, sulfites. And they're making themselves toxic with hydrogen sulfide because their gut bacteria feeds on it and turns into hydrogen sulfide. And they wonder why they constantly have to take mega doses of B vitamins or B12. Because they need an antidote. Maybe if they stopped the sulfur intake, they might fix their need for an antidote. Antidotes are useful. If you get bit by a snake, you want the snake venom antidote. But you don't take snake venom antidote before you go on a hike, because snake venom antidote by itself is toxic as well. Look up the side effects of snake venom antidote. It's a huge list. Antidotes are often toxic in themselves. Now, why might we need a small amount of B vitamins all the time? Because we make toxins in ourselves all the time. So you might need a little bit of the antidotes every day. But the funny thing is, when you think of the antidote thing, why do we pee out B vitamins so quickly? Why? Why can you take a B1 pill and smell it in your pee in 20 minutes? Why is your body working so hard to get rid of it? Because antidotes, when they're not needed, are not good for you. But could B1 help your symptoms a lot if you need it? Sure. I'll vouch for that. Could folate help you a lot if you need it? Yeah. If you're going to look into B vitamins, those are the two places to start. Folate, B1. B12 is a third. But hopefully, if you fix the problem in terms of getting rid of the toxicities and you address the folate and the B1, you won't need to go to B12. Very suspicious of B12. So, let's see. So I hope that answers your question, Jamie. I don't have like I said, I go up, my basic supplemental dose of K2 is, I like the Thorne K2 drops. We sell those for anybody who wants to get them. If you want to try vitamin K2, my normal dosing for somebody who wants to try it, I have them start with 1,000 micrograms, one drop, and they can go up to 5 drops. Once in a while, with my own clients who I'm talking to, who I'm monitoring, who are keeping in touch with me, I might take them higher than that. And then I tell them at some point, you're going to want to go down because you're not going to need it. But for now, we're medicating a symptom. We can medicate. There's nothing wrong with medicating symptoms with stuff that is relatively non-toxic. Relatively. Doesn't mean it's totally non-toxic. So, but yeah, 5,000 micrograms a day is generally what I go up to with a normal suspected vitamin K deficiency. But again, we're watching to see, do they need it or do they not? If it's not benefiting them, if I'm watching them, I might take them higher to see if a higher dose is what they needed. But usually I wouldn't do that. So why would I take somebody to a higher dose? Let's say they get up to 5,000 micrograms a day of MK4 and they're like, well, the symptom that we talked about is better. It's improved, but it's not gone. Then I might say, okay, let's try a higher dose. If we tried the base dose and they didn't get better at all, then I'd be like, I don't think this is the answer. The cool thing about the drops is that you can apply it if you have a kind of superficial issue like easy bruising. Can you rub the vitamin K drops on the bruise? Will it make the bruise go away faster? Most likely. Could you rub the vitamin K2 drops directly on your teeth or your gums that are having the issues? Yeah, I mean, you're going to swallow it anyway. It's going to get washed off your teeth and you're going to swallow it, but you can get a local effect right away. And maybe you don't need as much because you put it directly on the problem area where you were manifesting the issue. So, I hope that answered it. That was a lot of stuff on vitamin K. Let me see if I missed anything. I don't think so. Check and make sure. Who is? Funny thing, Tyler Ginter texts me during the live stream. Okay. I'm gonna have to wrap this up pretty soon. I'm just gonna look for any chats that I specifically Reliable Andrew says, would you consider systemic enzymes as part of a healing modality to minimize inflammation? As a temporary thing, yes. I do like when people, I discuss dosing on this inside the Love Your Liver network, but I've personally used and I like, and I've talked to others about using serapeptase, serratiopeptidase, which I believe comes from silkworms, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. But yeah, serapeptase or serratiopeptidase as a post-surgery healing accelerator. Yes. People who are just taking systemic enzymes every day, they're not addressing the problem, which is usually toxicity and deficiencies, as those who are regulars here should know. So, oh, Maggie, I wanted to hit this question. Maggie Casman asked, could you talk about tongue ties, including their root cause? Where is it? Not that. Nope. Oh, I'm going to have to go to... What is it called? Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm using the wrong term. Let me go to PubMed. Where is it? Oh, I just love it when I can't find it. So there's a paper out there that basically goes over the connections between cleft lips and cleft palates. And vitamin A toxicity. Unreal. I swear these studies are getting harder and harder for me to find. It's like they're almost like being pushed down. There was a study on lactoferrin in animals helping, I think it was with rams, and it was helping their sexual function. I can't find it anymore. I absolutely cannot find it anymore. Well, here's one. Experimental study on the cleft lip and palate. Part 8. Induction of cleft palate in Wistar rats by vitamin A. They induced cleft palate in rats by giving them vitamin A toxicity. So tongue ties are all related in there. Yeah. It's a vitamin A toxicity thing. It's epidemic. Let me just see if I can find it. I want to find that one paper. Oh, here it is. Okay, got it. See, again, I'm gonna go over this because this is not the study I want. They say, here's the paper: proteomic analysis of RBP4, retinol binding protein 4 / vitamin A in children with cleft lip and or palate. Okay, remember when I went over earlier about all the different forms of vitamin A that could be in the body that they don't test for? They test for retinol. They can test for retinol binding protein. Okay. So they're going to say here in this paper that our results indicated that reduced levels of RBP4 and vitamin A were related to newborns with non-syndromic cleft of the lip and or palate, and thus should receive more attention. These results also suggest that vitamin A supplementation might be necessary at an early stage. We know that what's the one vitamin that they tell pregnant women to be really careful of when they're pregnant? It's vitamin A. So they're going to be like, oh, you obviously need more vitamin A. And then I don't know if you guys remember, but I went over a couple live streams ago about, and this is on the channel. We have lots of papers showing that vitamin A, the different forms, but especially the retinoic acid form, depletes folate. What's the one vitamin they talk about in pregnancy that you really need to avoid birth defects? Folate, not folic acid. Never take folic acid. Synthetic garbage. So vitamin A causes birth defects. Folate deficiency causes birth defects. Vitamin A depletes folate. And then they're going to say here that the one vitamin that is recommended against in pregnancy is causing cleft lip. So now let's go over this other paper. Vitamin A and clefting, putative biological mechanisms. Come on, paste. There we go. And here's the start of it. Nutritional factors such as vitamin intake contribute to the etiology or the cause of cleft palate. Vitamin A is a regulator of embryonic development. No. Excess vitamin A can cause congenital malformations such as spina bifida and cleft palate. What do we go over on the end? Let's say, in general, high doses of vitamin A affect palatogenesis, the creation of the palate, through interference with cell proliferation and growth factors such as transforming growth factor beta and platelet-derived growth factor. The effects of lower doses of vitamin A need to be investigated in greater depth in order to improve public health recommendations. Oh, and they say here, excessive vitamin A may disturb all three stages of palatogenesis. So when we're talking about tongue ties, cleft lip, cleft palate, it's all like central defects, right? It's vitamin A toxicity. Now, I did have one woman who took large amounts of folate, like large amounts. So do we want to just megadose B vitamins, folks? No. For one of her kids, she took large doses of, I don't remember what type it was. It might have been folic acid, but it might have been 5-MTHF. I don't like either of those. That child got, I forget if it was a tongue tie or a cleft palate or cleft lip or whatever, or maybe it was both. And I talked to this mom. She was a consultation client of mine. And I said, you're eating good, right? Like you're eating clean food, right? And she goes, yeah. I said, don't take the extra folate. Just don't. You don't need it. You're eating a good diet. And she stopped. For her next pregnancy, she didn't have any extra folate, no supplemental folate, and that child came out without a cleft lip or a cleft palate or a tongue tie. Weird, right? I mean, we were doing a bunch of things, but what I'm telling you is mega doses of B vitamins, if you don't need them for the antidote, are toxic in themselves. Don't just take B complexes just because people say to. And if you go to certain websites where they push B vitamins, what they'll say is, oh, you try taking B1 first. And then if B1 gives you symptoms, then you take B2. And if B2 helps that, but it gives you more symptoms, then you take this vitamin. And then if that one, then you take this vitamin. And then they'll be like, ah, screw it, just take a B complex. Does this sound at all like conventional medicine? Take drug A, get side effect. Take drug B for side effect. Get new side effect. Take drug C for side effect. Get new side effect. Do you see how the same thing could be happening with excessive doses of B vitamins that you don't need? Did you know that vitamin science was started by Merck, the pharmaceutical company, and the Rockefellers? Do you trust them to be looking for your best interests? So, yeah. Oh, and I also went over in that live stream a couple times ago, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 maybe ago, Other things that depleted folate, copper toxicity, caffeine, alcohol. What does alcohol turn into? Alcohol acid, aldehyde acid, right? Copper's just toxic. Caffeine slows down your aldehyde dehydrogenase. Yeah. Funny how they all cause the same type of birth defects. And if you didn't know that, they all cause central spinal defects. Central neural tube defects. And they all deplete the same vitamin. I showed the research on that in that live stream. So, weird coincidences. And then what do they give everybody? Folic acid, which is just toxic. What did they just do? They just made it that folinic acid. Here's a really weird thing that just happened, folks. They've made folinic acid, calcium folinate, which is my preferred form of folate if somebody's going to supplement it. They've now made it prescription only. You can only give the leucovorin, which is the megadose folinic acid. You can only give it with a prescription. So they'll let you get the garbage folic acid, and they'll let you get the 5-MTHF, which if you're watching this and you tried 5-MTHF and you felt absolutely god-awful from it, please post in the chat, post in the comments. You would be amazed at how many people felt like hot garbage on 5-MTHF. If you're out there and you felt great on it, that's great. You might have needed the extra methyl groups, but not everybody needs the extra methyl groups, no matter what you read on all the MTHFR websites. Methylation problems are toxicity problems. I can show you studies where glyphosate increases methylation and decreases methylation in different parts of the cell. Vitamin A affects methylation. Toxicity affects your methylation. So before you go and start whining about your MTHFR status and how you need all these extra methyl groups, start working on your toxicity. If you need some B vitamins, related B vitamins or whatever, if you need some in the meantime, think of those as aids, as crutches, as antidotes, symptom fixers while you fix the toxicity problem in the background. Hopefully you're doing that. Hopefully you're not doing cod liver oil and all the other nonsense that they're pushing generally. So, let's see if there's anything. Oh, wait, did somebody throw in a, I think somebody did. Oh, there it is. Oh, sorry, John. Well, I don't have a lot of time for this one, John, but John gave a super chat. Thank you, John. Could you talk about gallstones and how to get rid of them? Thanks, Garrett. Okay. You're welcome, John. I'll say that early. So the thing I want you to think of as the thing I want you to think about with gallstones, where do calcifications or things growing, things precipitating, if you will, to use a chemical term, this happens when things, so in a running stream, do you see a bunch of algae? Not usually. Where does the algae form? In the stagnant waters, right? The little pools on the side. And you can see that if you haven't noticed, a lot of those pools on those rivers are looking pretty reddish, like iron these days. Maybe you've noticed, maybe you haven't. But gallstones would be a result of stagnant bile. It's sitting around, precipitating, calcifying, creating crystals, crystallizing. Okay, this would be not good. What is cholestasis? Stasis means stagnation. Cola is bile. So bile stagnation. By definition, gallstones are showing a form of cholestasis. So there are some people out there who have, do I use this a lot, but there are some people out there in the network and other places who have talked about chanca as an herb to kind of move these things along. Am I recommending that? No. Some people have tried it. said it helped with some of their gallbladder pains that they thought, or their liver pains. Could it change the bile? So what will we do to what will we do to relieve the cholestasis, get things moving? Well, it's all the same things. So John, if you want, do I have a specific answer for gallstones? No, we do the same thing that we do for everything else. We correct the toxicities, we correct the deficiencies. So hold on one sec. So, the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases states gallstones are hard, pebble-like pieces of material, usually made of cholesterol or bilirubin. I'm going to tell you that what we see in people as we fix their liver, we see less cholesterol coming out. And with people with gallstones who often, when they say they feel bad or they hurt, it's usually when they eat lots of fat. Yeah, like I said, do we have a specific approach to these things? No, we just start making the bile less toxic. And you have to remember, one of the things about gallbladders, a gallbladder is the one part of the body that should be the best designed to handle the toxicity of bile. Right? It's like your bile vault. It's supposed to hold it. It's designed to hold bile. So if people, I don't know if you remember in that 1905 or the 1906 Rockefeller University paper that I went over, the toxicity of bile, bile could cause paralysis. When they injected it into the mice or whatever, it could cause paralysis or coma. So what's one of the main problems that happens in a gallbladder? It stops squeezing, like it's paralyzed almost. So if your gallbladder didn't squeeze, it would become stagnant, right? The stuff in it would become stagnant. It's not getting squeezed out. When things get stagnant, things start crystallizing or precipitating, or stones start forming. Bilirubin, cholesterol, these are waste products of the liver in the bile. So if we're seeing that forming stones, it's crystallizing. Those things can crystallize too. So what do? We make the bile less toxic. We stop paralyzing the gallbladder, and things can eventually start moving out. Can people do things before then? I'll just say it now. I've gone over the gallbladder cleanse, the liver and gallbladder cleanses before. Those are not gallstones you see in the toilet. They're not. They're mixes of the stuff you just ate, the olive oil and the Epsom salts, or whatever you took to induce your diarrhea and your bile dump. You're inducing a bile dump followed by diarrhea. That's what it is. And you've been saving up bile by your low-fat diet, maybe your apple juice, whatever you've just been. The low-fat diet is the important thing for whatever, 3 days before it, a week before it. Fasting would be low-fat, and then you dump all that bile that you stored up. It mixes with the Epsom salts. It mixes with the bile and the olive oil, and you make floaty things. No one's ever shown me an analysis, a chemical analysis of those floating stones. What do we know floats? Fat. What did you just take? I don't know, a quarter cup of olive oil. You think that would float? Yeah. So, but yeah, some people have messed around with Chancapiedra. I don't normally if people know they have gallstones, I mean, if you've had your gallbladder removed, you don't have your bile vault anymore, which means your bile just trickles out. You have a different situation than other people. You have to kind of match your trickle of bile rather than big dumps of bile with people with a gallbladder have. So, but yeah, we don't have any special approaches. The person's, some people are showing with kidney stones. Some people are showing with gallstones. Some people are showing with stones other places. Salivary stones, like it's the weak link in the chain where you might see these things. That's where, people want a protocol for their specific issues. And we don't do protocols because the roots of these things are the same. The very roots. Now, can we use different amounts of things? Right? Different cars have different gas mileage, and so they need different amounts of gas, and they need different types of gas. But do all those cars that run on gas run on gas? Yes. But there's different parameters. So if somebody was like, gosh, Dr. Smith, if I eat any fat at all, my liver and my gallbladder get irritated. Well, then I'd be like, well, then avoid that for now. Maybe later you'll be able to eat some fat. But normally people don't have a problem with eating small to moderate amounts of fat. But if somebody did have problems, then we say, don't do that for now. Nearly all of us have plenty of body fat on us that we can burn to use. Why do people say you need all these fat? Why would your body store all this fat if it couldn't use it? Right. So, okay. Pipot Kenhu about oxbile or TUDCA. Taking oxbile or TUDCA is not a solution for bile problems or liver problems at all. TUDCA is a secondary bile acid. Secondary bile acid is the most toxic of things. I went over earlier in this live stream about how taking a toxin can shift one disease into another disease. I have helped a person out of cirrhosis by getting them off UDCA, which is another secondary bile acid. That's the one the pharmaceutical companies use. And we talked to multiple people who said that their liver sick parent or relative was put on UDCA and they just continued to degenerate. If the only thing that bile could potentially help with is SIBO, and even then, I haven't seen it work yet. It's a theory. But adding more bile to a system, the cause and the solution of chronic disease is in the bile. It's not in adding more bile to the system. It's getting the bile to go the right direction and to have it not be so toxic and to have the right recipe. So TUDCA could change the recipe of the bile into something potentially that somebody's symptoms might get better, but that's going to turn on people at some point. We talk about that. Taurine, TUDCA is just taurine bound to UDCA. And UDCA, I've been over, is quite toxic. And there's papers that talk about it going, why are we doing this? This is really bad. And all you did was you added a taurine to an UDCA. And taurine can change the recipe of the bile. Taurine can help people feel better. Some people feel better right away because it changes the recipe of the bile. But later, everybody who's done that has seen that it eventually turns on you and makes things worse. So the key is to make your bile less toxic. So let's see. Oh, Trusty Rusty said, love you, Dr. Smith. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, Hope Tipton, you guys will probably see Hope in the comments. Hope has been a follower of this. Hope follows directions really well. She's also really intuitive about what she needs. But she said, doing this helps with gallbladder issues. I saved mine doing this. It's been over 3 years since I was diagnosed with GS. What is gallstones? I'm guessing you mean gallstones, Hope. And she says, I still have my gallbladder. So that's what we do, John. We work on this stuff. We do this. People want a protocol, and I'm like, it's what we need, what people need. I don't do protocols. Like when people use the word protocol with me, I get a little irritated because I say I don't do protocols. We have concepts and principles. That is what we do. Concepts and principles. And then we adjust them. If some people are working with me, we're working on adjusting them to each person. The concept, what we actually do as part of the concept. Like I have some people who are underweight, as an example. And generally I say, adding fats to your diet is like something we would like to minimize. Adding fats. Like when I mean oils and butters, and we're trying to minimize adding fats in general. But when I have underweight people who can't keep weight on, I tell them you're probably going to need to add some fat, or you're not going to get the calories in that you need to maintain your weight. So we have concepts and principles, but there's context. This is where people go and they read somebody on the internet and they say, this person said they did this and I tried it and I felt like garbage. And then we go, well, you didn't have the same situation or you didn't have the same context. What we see with, here's an important example, and some of you may be able to chime in on this. When we are doing what we do in the Love Your Liver program, which if you don't know where to find it, it's members.nutritiondetective.com, members.nutritiondetective.com. People who tried certain things in their past, certain supplements or whatever, and they may have felt better for a while, but then they kept getting worse over time. And then they come here and they try maybe the same. They're doing our stuff, but maybe they try that old thing. And it does not make them feel good this time. We're shifting the whole balance. And when we get people really detoxing fast, if they then do something that is either toxic or slows their detox, they feel totally different than they did when they were making themselves more toxic versus when they're actually truly detoxing. It's a pattern we have seen over and over and over and over. They'll be like, I used to feel good when I did this, and now I tried it again and I don't feel good when I did this. That's because we're doing a different approach. Okay. So, let's see. I think that's about it. I got to get to my inner circle now, guys. Again, as I said, the inner circle is a private group inside the Love Your Liver network where people get unlimited questions for a monthly fee, which is very reasonable. And I'm going to go there and I can answer these questions in a more controversial and often more detailed way. Not that I'm not detailed here, but if you're ever interested in that, that's where you find it. Hope you all enjoyed it today. Another 2-hour one. I'm super excited about the future. I got a bunch of things I'm working on, and yeah. So glad you could make it. Thanks for joining us. I will see you all next week, same time, same place. Bye now.